This video is brought to you by
Cool green clothing coming straight up out of that DMV. You know what it is. This that Baltimore designer right here. Come on now, come and show some love and show some support. Go online right now, coolgreenclothing.com, and make your purchase. Oh yeah, by the way, if you ain't cool and getting the green, you're in the way, and that's just basic.
What's up, fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, I'll be talking about the disturbing case of Cleaven Williams, a former Baltimore City community activist who viciously ended his wife, Victoria Grave Williams' life just outside the courthouse, right after she obtained a restraining order against him. Before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel, and welcome back to all of our subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so and join the Tony 2 Times family. Go ahead and click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. And if you're rocking with the content, don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the whole story and my commentary. Alright, let's jump right into it. Veronica Graves met Cleaven Williams in 1998 while taking classes at Hagerstown Junior College. Veronica and Cleaven had a whirlwind romance while dating and ended up getting married a year later. The beautiful Veronica was 19 and Cleaven was 23 when the couple tied the knot. The newlyweds would go on to start a business. They built the 7th Degree Barbershop just on the edge of downtown. Cleaven did the haircuts and Veronica styled dreadlocks. Cleaven and Veronica welcomed 3 beautiful children into the world, 2 girls and a boy. Veronica, a devoted and loving mother, homeschooled and catered to her children's every need. She took them to soccer, ballet, tap, music and art classes, martial arts, Chinese classes, and church. The couple seemed to have it all: a thriving business, 3 talented and well-rounded children, and what seemed like a perfect marriage. But their picture-perfect marriage suddenly changed on a Friday night in January 2005. A disagreement between Cleaven and Veronica got out of control. Cleaven badly put his hands on Veronica in their upstairs bedroom. He pushed her into a dresser, pinned her against her vanity, and then began kicking her in the chest. Veronica pleaded with him to stop, reminding him of their children. Cleaven told her that his mother could raise them, as he proceeded to pistol whip his wife. And then he fired the .45 caliber handgun at her feet. The bullet went through the bedroom floor and lodged itself in the kitchen floor, just feet away from where Veronica's disabled mother sat downstairs. Veronica's mother sat through the chaos, unable to come to her daughter's aid. Veronica found the opportunity to run when Cleaven went to the bathroom. As she ran out of the house, she feared Cleaven would shoot her in the back. Veronica made it to the Hagerstown police, but out of fear, Veronica gave them a false name, and instead of telling them what happened, she told the police that she had been robbed, but she didn't want to file a formal report. With visible injuries on her face, she told them she just wanted to be safe and be taken to a hospital. Coincidentally, early the next morning, the couple's barbershop burned down. A later investigation into the fire ruled it an arson, but they were never able to get enough evidence to charge anyone. Later that afternoon, Cleaven fled Hagerstown and drove 2 hours to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. He ended up at a woman's house he was once acquainted with. Cleaven told this woman that he had hurt his wife and he was going to jail. While at the woman's house, Cleaven became erratic and punched holes in the walls, threw pictures around, and even attempted to take advantage of her in the hallway. She went to police and told them about Cleaven, but she refused to press charges. After Cleaven left Maryland, Veronica's family member convinced her to go back to the police, where she gave a full report and taped statement. With her family's encouragement, Veronica left town. But Cleaven would track her down as she visited relatives in Texas, New Orleans, and Florida. When Cleaven would speak with Veronica, he promised that things would change. Veronica believed in Cleaven's promises, and they drove back to Maryland together. After the couple reconciled, Veronica stopped cooperating with the prosecutors, and when the DV case went to trial in May 2005, she refused to testify against her husband. Maryland state law gave her that right only once. Cleaven would plead guilty to assault and was given a suspended 3-year sentence and put on probation. 7 months later, the couple purchased an enchanting 2-story home in suburban Abingdon, Maryland for $445,000. The 2,300 square foot home had a cathedral window above the front door and a 2-car garage. Veronica worked as a hairstylist a couple days a week at a salon in Frederick, Maryland. But at this time, Cleaven didn't have a steady job. They would end up losing the home in October 2007. After leaving Abingdon, the family moved into a property they owned across the street from Greenmount Cemetery in Baltimore. The immaculate row house stood out with its gleaming glass windows and white mailbox among the buildings that were boarded up and had caged windows. Despite their new beginnings, Cleaven's promises for things to change had not lasted. Veronica would still suffer physically and emotionally at the hands of Cleaven. Cleaven reportedly whipped Veronica with a belt. The couple tried counseling, but nothing changed. Veronica's family begged her to leave Cleaven, but she said she didn't want her children to grow up without their father. But on October 19, 2008, Veronica was fed up with Cleaven's actions. This time, Cleaven had cut off all of her hair, locked her out of their home, and took her car. She told her cousin and best friend that she believed her husband would end her life. Veronica's cousin never cared for Cleaven from the very beginning of their relationship. Veronica's cousin remembered Cleaven always showing up at her job and always keeping tabs on her every move. After the October 19th incident, Veronica went to Baltimore police and filed charges against him. BPD should have forwarded the warrant to the special DV unit, but they did not. Cleaven had a special relationship with BPD's Eastern District and city politicians. He was a well-known community activist and contractor in East Baltimore. He was the president of the organization Greater Greenmount Community Association, where he worked to strengthen East Baltimore neighborhoods through redevelopment projects. Patrol officers who knew Cleaven decided to serve him with the warrant themselves. Knowing the police were after him, he decided to turn himself in on multiple occasions, but failed to do so. Officers would go by the residence passing the warrant from shift to shift. A few weeks after filing the report, Veronica left Cleaven for good, and her cousin went to the home with a police escort to gather a few things. But when they arrived, they discovered that Cleaven had thrown Veronica's clothes in the bathtub. He scattered and destroyed her belongings and torn up every photo of her, including her passport. Their children's belongings were spared. Cleaven would finally turn himself in on November 14, 2008, after calling the precinct saying he was scared. When he got there, however, BPD couldn't find the warrant. He promised to return on November 18. Meanwhile, Veronica and their children were basically in hiding, staying at her cousin's house. She feared that Cleaven would be enraged by her efforts to leave him. She had a buddy system with her cousin where they would text each other anytime they left one place or another. On November 17, 2008, Veronica went to court to get a protective order against Cleaven. The courthouse was just 5 blocks away from where she and Cleaven used to live on East North Avenue. She thought Cleaven had left the home in order to evade police since he had a warrant for his arrest. As she passed by the house, she spotted his SUV as he walked down the stairs carrying some items. Veronica kept on her way, hoping that Cleaven didn't see her. But via text message, she got word from her assistant that Cleaven did in fact spot her. Veronica went ahead into the courthouse as she faced the judge, telling them about the incident on October 19, 2008. After answering routine questions, Veronica was granted the protective order. However, she never mentioned prior attacks from her husband or that at the moment her husband could be possibly lurking outside. As Veronica left the courtroom at almost 4 p.m., she texted her cousin that she was leaving. Her cousin told her to call her as soon as she got in the car and before she got the kids. But that would never happen. At around the same time, a woman at a red light saw a man wearing a tan jumpsuit run across traffic and tackled a woman on the sidewalk and began slashing her. The woman in the car called 911. A police officer who was just ending their shift drove by and saw what was happening. The officer got out of his vehicle and ordered the man to stop. The officer utilized his taser, but that did not stop the man. The officer told the man to put the knife down multiple times. Then the officer fired his gun twice, striking the armed man at least once. That man was identified as 33-year-old Cleaven Williams, and the woman he had attacked was his wife, 29-year-old Victoria Graves Williams, as she was leaving the courthouse. A crowd of people stood by and watched in disbelief. The woman who called 911 pulled her car over and rushed to Veronica's aid, cradling her and applied pressure to her wounds. Veronica reached up and grabbed the woman's face as she passed out. Injured Cleaven tried to get up, but the officer ordered him not to move as he reloaded his taser. The woman holding Veronica tried to step on Cleaven's wound to inflict more pain. The officer warned her that Cleaven was still armed with the knife. She then yelled at the officer to end Cleaven's life, in which Cleaven raised his head and said, "Please do." Veronica was taken to Johns Hopkins Hospital as she held on for dear life. Veronica's cousin, who was notified by authorities of what happened, rushed to be by her side. A blood transfusion was started, but they had to stop because it was against Veronica's faith as a baptized Jehovah's Witness. They believe that the Bible forbids transfusion. Doctors discovered that Veronica was 3 to 6 weeks pregnant. 3 days after the attack, the baby didn't make it. As Veronica rested in a drug-induced coma, her children came to see her. At the time, her children were 8, 7, and 5 years old. They took molds of their mother's hands and slipped a ceramic ring on her thumb. They sang her the chorus of her favorite hymn before Veronica was taken off the ventilator per her wishes on November 20th, 2008. She passed away right after. Cleaven, who was in the same hospital, survived his wounds. He was charged with slaying his wife and served with 2 outstanding warrants, the warrant for the DV case and an open warrant from 2003 where he was accused of shooting a man in a car in Baltimore. After Veronica passed away, the organization where Cleaven was president released a statement. They called it a personal tragedy and a tragedy for the community. It would take almost 2.5 years for Cleaven to go to trial. The trial began in February 2011. Cleaven initially claimed that he was not criminally responsible, basically an insanity plea. He suggested that it was a spur-of-the-moment act he couldn't remember. But Cleaven wrote a letter outlining plans to take Veronica's life and how he would want his children to be raised. The letter was found by police on the passenger seat of a car he shared with Veronica. He testified in a pre-trial hearing that he figured he had an STD and he contracted it from his wife. He explained he wrote the letter because he was upset. That's how he vented. He wrote that letter 5 days before he attacked Veronica, when he believed she was cheating on him. He claimed he was about to call a health clinic to find out whether he did have an STD, which he had not. He claimed he wrote the letter as a form of therapy and did not plan to take Veronica's life, nor planned to take his own, even though he asked the officer to take his life on the day he attacked Veronica. Cleaven never denied that he did indeed take Veronica's life, but made it seem as if though he blacked out and didn't remember what he had done. He said in court when he came to, he saw that they were both lying in the street and he realized what he had done. Before the attack, Cleaven said he had spotted their car, unlocked the door, and got inside. He said he figured Veronica was in the courthouse and wanted to talk to her. But instead of talking, that's when Cleaven jumped her. Court documents revealed that Cleaven stabbed Veronica 7 times. Prosecutors say that Cleaven targeted her face to take away her beauty and her throat to take away her voice. In addition to Veronica's alleged affairs, he was also mad about her devotion to being a Jehovah's Witness, and with all his marital problems, things boiled over between them. Cleaven also told the jury that he was provoked by his wife, who'd cut his neck when they fought, but the jury didn't seem to believe him. Several witnesses took the stand, including the officer who shot Cleaven and the woman who saw the attack and aided Veronica. The notes Cleaven wrote, autopsy photos, and the hunting knife used in the slaying were all shown to the jury. During deliberations, one jury asked to see the knife and ran their thumbnail across it to see how sharp it was. The jury deliberated for 3.5 days before coming back with a guilty verdict of first-degree hit. 2 jurors cried as the verdict was read. They also released a statement with the verdict, which said, "It is with heavy heart and great pain that we have arrived at our unanimous decision. We mourn with both families in the loss of their loved ones. We recognize that the lives of the 3 children have been forever changed due to this tragedy, that their lives would one day come to a sense of normalcy. We pray that Mr. Cleaven Williams be given the help and support that he so desperately needs to pay back the debt he owes. We pray that he finds forgiveness in the eyes of his Maker, and that the children of this broken family find peace. Cleaven's family had also released a statement after the verdict was handed down. They said Veronica was an important part of their family for almost 10 years, and they loved her and missed her also. They mentioned being there for the children. They also prayed that Veronica's family find forgiveness, as they were sorry for what happened. Veronica's family was relieved to hear the verdict. Family members said Cleaven told lies, especially the part about not being aware of what he did to Veronica. In a letter Cleaven wrote to a reporter while in jail after he was convicted, he said, "I would like to take my folly, my tragedy, and use it to help someone else. I mean, there has to be some good that comes out of this tragedy. I am seeing Uriah and King David, Helen of Troy, Othello, and Samson and Delilah, all wrapped up into my real-life tragedy." Williams also wrote that he had suffered in silence for more than 2 years since his arrest and endured nothing but ridicule and character assassinations. He said most of the allegations about his relationship with his wife were lies and misrepresentations, and that the whole picture did not emerge during the trial. He would be sentenced in May 2011. Before his sentencing, he read a lengthy statement. Cleaven Williams told the judge, "This is the darkest hour of my life. I'm truly sorry for taking someone that I can never get back." He went on to say, "I've exhausted the words I'm sorry. I hope this tragedy can help someone to catch themselves before falling." Cleaven said, "No one in this courtroom can tell you that I did not love my children or that I did not love my wife," referring only indirectly to Veronica's slaying as the situation and this tragedy. Cleaven said he wished that he could take that day back and that going to prison was not a part of his plan. Cleaven did apologize to his children, who were not in the courtroom. Cleaven went on to warn his wife's relatives who were sitting in the courtroom that no one has the right to answer their questions but him. Then, as if he was speaking to his late wife, Cleaven said, "Buttercup, I love you forever. Lord knows I didn't plan this." Relatives of Veronica also called Cleaven out and felt that he really didn't have any remorse. One relative called him a predator and a coward who hunted Veronica down like an animal while she tried to run for her life. Veronica's cousin, who took care of the Williams' children, read letters from all 3 of them. They told the judge that they were afraid of their father and wanted him to go to prison for a long time. They condemned him for taking their mother's life. One of their daughters talked about growing up to be a supergirl, just like her mommy. The judge sentenced Cleaven to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. The judge also reprimanded Cleaven for not taking 100% responsibility for slaying Veronica, something Cleaven avoided during his trial and sentencing. Veronica's family sued BPD's Eastern District for not doing their due diligence in serving the warrant and arresting Cleaven prior to Veronica's slaying. They believe that his close personal relationships with officers and the deputy major at the time aided him in evading arrests. However, they lost that suit and the subsequent appeal because there was not enough evidence to prove wrongdoing or that it could have prevented what happened to Veronica. Cleaven Williams passed away in December 2021 at the age of 46. May Veronica Graves Williams continue to rest in peace. Fam, this was a very sad story. My deepest condolences to the family and everyone affected by this devastating event. Both Veronica and Cleaven were loved by many. Despite Cleaven's egregious and fatal actions, he was respected and people looked up to him. He was also painted as narcissistic, manipulative, and controlling. Veronica was very beautiful, very kind, very loving. There was never any proof that Veronica had any extramarital affairs. She loved her family and her children. She tried to make things work, and I'm sure it had something to do with her faith because she was Jehovah's Witness, and divorce is frowned upon. So the decision to leave her husband and break up her home was probably very difficult for her. But obviously, she felt like her life was in danger and maybe feared for her children to live under such circumstances. Sadly, the worst thing that could have happened came true. In my opinion, the police did drop the ball somewhere and didn't take Veronica's case as seriously as they should have. Unfortunately, that couldn't be proven. I really hope that this story could help someone get out of a volatile situation and find help, or get their anger under control and seek real counseling. Loving someone to death is dangerous and unhealthy. It's an obsession. Don't force someone to love you through fear. Real love casts out fear. Love someone to life. Love them enough to let them live and move on if it's not working out. Again, respectfully, my heart goes out to all affected by this tragedy. I'm so sorry for your loss. Fam, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Alright fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. I know this was a lengthier video. I appreciate you making it to the end. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.